you see me? Right, welcome everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Coach Gerald Lami podcast. Your host, Coach Gerald Lami. Today I'm joined by a special guest who is a UEFA A licensed coach, founder of the Coaches Network podcast. I'd like to introduce Coach Yes. Coach Yes, welcome on the show, bro. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me, man. How's everything?
Not too bad, not too bad. How you been as well? How you been during this time? How you been? Well, I know you've been keeping busy. Definitely, I've been seeing the guests that you've been having, and do you know what I mean? Things like that. So, which we'll get into, definitely a bit later on. But how you been? How has it been for yourself during this time?
Yeah, it's been good, man. Been busy, like you said, not just on the podcast front. It's got a whole other few different projects I'm working on. Now there's this guy Gerald Lami, I'm just trying to keep up with, man.
I'm trying to keep up with you. You're the one who's getting NBA All Stars and that on your show right now, bro. Well, which we'll get into that as well, man. Do you know what it is? When I'm seeing I've seen a bunch of podcasts coming out and things like that, and it's like what makes each podcast different? Like for me, like looking at your one, you've got different elements. You know, when you got the insightful sort of series, you got the coaches coming on, and then out of the blue, you come out with a special guest, the biggest one out there, big Shaquille O'Neal. Like, how did that come about, man? And what was it like? What did you pick up from someone like him who's basically at the top of the game? Like, do you know what I mean? What was your take on it?
I think, just kind of, I guess, paint a bit of a story, kind of, obviously similar to yourself, started the podcast, and I'm not sure what your motivations are behind yours, but mine was just, I've had this idea for a couple of years, and lockdown came in it. I thought, I'm bored out of my head, bro. Just bored. I need to do something to keep my mind occupied, and I guess I didn't know what I was kind of taking on before I started it, but it's one of them was, as you know, once you kind of get in the motions of it and you make a commitment, I'm going to do this maybe once a week or however long, you'll kind of stick to that now because that's what the expectation is. So started back in May, I think it was. I had a conversation with my missus in around April, saying like, "Oh, I'm bored. I need something to do. I just like being busy." She's like, "Well, you've had this idea for the podcast when you get started." So kind of started with me and a few of my mates, just talking football, mainly coaching topics. I was conscious, and like you said, look, everyone's got different elements of what they're doing, and I was conscious about, a lot of people out there with different podcasts and different mediums, mainly talking about the tactical side of things, about all, the strategies, and it was almost very punditry content, and I think that's not really what I want to do. It's not really my thing. I think that it's a bit. I'm not saying there's not a market for it, but I think it's a saturated market nonetheless. And one of the things I wanted to do for me personally was just kind of network, really, and just having an opportunity to discuss and pull on different ideas. And what I found is that, I'm sure you can relate, if it's your idea, you can't expect others to have the same passion, drive, and love for it.
100%.
So you kind of got to work it off your own back in that respect. So having gone through that little process there, I was having these conversations with my mates, and I think to myself, it's not quite where I want it. Because then, but the other thing is when you're now relying on other people to be part of it, you have to think about their schedules, their timing, and all that stuff kind of plays a part as well. So then I kind of had this idea, and I was thinking, I want to let me just have an interview. So I called up one of my mates. At the time, he just finished working for the England under 16s, and I thought, you know what, mate, I'm gonna give you a call. We're gonna talk, and we just see how it goes.
Well, how did you do that? Was it on the phone or was it just?
Yeah, so I mean, to start with, so I gave him a call. I said, "This is what I want to do. If you got some time tomorrow, let's catch up." And we're just gonna have a chat, and we're just gonna record. And that's when I came up, and I started searching through different apps and different things you can use to kind of do that. And I came across this Anchor app. I started with Anchor, and which was it's a really good, useful tool to be honest. It's great in terms of editing and all that sort of stuff. Had this conversation. I thought, like 3-4 minutes into it, yeah, this is it. This is the direction I want to go in, because this is a lot more organic. I'm not having to rely on anyone else, and I can just see the way the conversation was unfolding straight away. We're going to get into some good bits here, and I think one of the things that I've found myself being quite effective with over the last few years, especially through my experience as a coach, and now more recently working as a coach educator, I've become really good at asking questions and trying to get really deep below the surface, and the conversation started to unravel. And I guess that was kind of the beginning of it, really, because from there I kind of just started reaching out to other people that I knew, and I started to reach out to people I didn't know, and I guess I was quite surprised at, I guess, the level of the guests that I was able to get in the first few weeks, and that kind of just set the momentum from there, really. You know, within the first few episodes, I've got, you know, Chris Ramsey, I've got Tony Carr, you know, legend at West Ham. I've got you know, people like Mark Sampson, or, you know, Dan Machichi. You know, got a good friend of mine over at Aston Villa now, lead youth development phase coach there, Mike Scott, who was at Derby County at the time. And I just thought, you know, actually, this is going somewhere. And then I guess a couple of weeks into that, I started to think, you know, let me see what else I can do with this, because obviously I'm a football coach. I wanted to be from a football perspective. Let me just try and branch out, because obviously, as you know, everything's about holistic development now. Bringing the different disciplines into it. So I thought, let me reach out to a couple of other people that I'm interested in. So like maybe sports psychologists and, you know, strength and conditioning coaches and stuff like that. So I reached out to this guy called Dan Abrahams. He's obviously on podcast, he's well renowned as a sports psychologist. Got him on the show, and I thought, I wasn't too sure how this was going to go. I just thought, let's have a conversation. And it's just off the back of having that conversation with him, I thought, okay, this is something different. So it's not where I had, like, you know, you touched on at the start of the conversation, I had like the Insight series, which was about the coaches and their journeys. And this kind of popped up, and I thought, this isn't quite the same feel, but it's still good stuff. So I thought, okay, let me utilize this. So that's where the idea for this how-to series came about. So all of a sudden, I've gone from having one episode a week to 2 episodes a week. I didn't know how I was going to get more guests, but I just thought, yeah, let me just go with it and run with it and see what happens. And then before you knew it, like I said, I've committed to 2 a week now. Now I've got to keep it up. But what I didn't realize is, obviously, within those first 6 to 8 weeks, or even 10 weeks, I'd had so many different conversations with other people that if I go back to the start of the conversation, where I had those conversations with my mates as other coaches and talk about different coaches, we probably recorded about 13 to 14 episodes. Only 4 of them ever came out, because then I switched into this Insight series aspect. And then started from there, again, in the following 6 weeks, I probably recorded about 50 episodes. Not even realizing I was just having conversations, loads of coaches, recording, editing. But I thought, oh, sugar, I've got too many episodes now. That's why, you know, for some people that might not know, that some of the episodes that have come out in the most recent weeks were actually recorded maybe 3 months ago. So I'm always kind of in advance in that respect. And then I got to about June, July, probably about July time, and then I'm looking at the stats on this Anchor app, and I'm thinking, wow, my podcast is in like 20 plus countries right now. It's mad. Like I couldn't even imagine it. And then I think I was at that point there where I thought, you know what, you get more confident. You start to feel like, I think this is gonna blow, you know, like at some point. I don't know when, but I got a good feeling about this podcast thing, because I think it's going really well. It's getting some good traction. It's getting some good feedback across the board. And I guess from that point, I said, I want to take it to the next stage. I want to get some bigger guests, because I've managed to get some big guests already. If you're working in youth development space in football, especially in the UK, you'll know about some of these people that I'm talking about. And then I was like, okay, cool. So what do you want to do with it? She was like, so I want to get some big guests. I've got some big people in mind. And she goes, all right, well, let's make a list. Start making a list, listing the people off, and I'm just being audacious with it. I was thinking to myself, I want to get people like, I'm going to get Ronaldinho, I'm going to get Ronaldo, I'm going to get David Beckham, I'm going to get Roberto Carlos. And at this point, it's still heavily football kind of focused. And then I thought, actually, no, let me branch out wide. I've managed to start this how-to series. Let me get some other people in. I got stuff like thinking about big motivational speakers and things like that, like, you know, likes of Eric Thomas and people like that, and, you know, who I'm still working on. And then one of the people on that list just happened to be Shaquille O'Neal. And I remember having this conversation with him. By this point, it's an ongoing conversation. We've got a list, and I'm starting to reach out to different people, starting to get a bit of a bite back on some of them. So we get to about, I think this is maybe end of August, beginning of September. I'm saying, right, Shaquille knows what I'm going to go to work on. I'm going to go to work on this one. And I didn't know how I was going to do it. But, you know, my missus has been my number one fan the whole way through. We're just having back and forth conversations. And then she managed to pull it off. If I'm being honest, she managed to pull it off. She managed to get through to Shaquille O'Neal. And I remember, because, like, I'm the type of person where I'm quite confident. just in general. If I say I'm going to do something, yeah, I'm going to do it. It might not be easy. It might not be as simple as it looks, but I'm like my head's set on it. And I remember going to work one day during lockdown, so I was just doing some like one-to-one stuff with some players, and she gives me a call. And she goes, oh, "My phone just rang. I thought it was you." I said, "No, what's happened?" She's like, "Oh, you never guess." I was like, "What happened?" She's like, "I just got off the front of Shaquille O'Neal."
Oof.
I was like, "Oh snap! Okay, cool."
Yeah.
Now in my mind, I'm thinking like, "Yeah, that's a madness because you just spoke to Shaq." Like, but on the flip side, I wasn't really as surprised because in my mind, I thought, "No, this is gonna happen."
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So it's almost like I'm kind of semi-prepared for it in some ways. And then she's telling about the story how that he's quite a playful guy. So he's talking about he answered it. They've done a FaceTime call, and he was like, "Hi," and she's like, "Hey," and he was like, "It's the man you're looking for." So he's quite playful, you know what I mean? And she was like, obviously, like, in some ways kind of starstruck, innit?
Yeah,
so I was like, "Okay, cool, but forget all that. What did he say? Like, is he gonna do it?" And he's like, "Yeah." She was like, "Straight away." He's like, "He's on it. He just said we've got to send him some information regarding it, and he's down to do it." So I guess that first interaction kind of really took place in like the beginning of October. Now, what happened over the coming weeks, we kind of going back and forth and setting a time, and I think it must have been like end of October-ish. We set a date, but obviously, life gets in the way of things, and we set a date. I think it must have been like 10 p.m. or something like that, on a particular day, and then it got to 10 p.m. Didn't happen. Got to 11 p.m. Nothing. Got to 12. Nothing. Got to 1. Nothing. 2. Nothing. Now we need to go to sleep. This is long, man. I'm tired. Lo and behold, like maybe about half hour, 45 minutes after we fell asleep, we wake up to a text saying, "Let's go."
Oof.
So we miss Shaquille O'Neal. I was thinking,
I'm shattered right now.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that happened, and then things kind of died off for a couple of weeks. We got in touch again, and kind of same thing really. It was just going back and forth, and couldn't really set a time. And then basically in the midst of all of that, obviously I'm still reaching out for other guests, building up other guests, and again, shout out to my missus, managed to land Sol Campbell.
Dope.
So a lot of people don't actually realize I actually interviewed Sol Campbell as well, because what actually happened was I interviewed him probably the middle of November, end of November sort of thing. And that episode came out on Christmas Day. Now, what actually happened was in the build-up, like I said, I'm building up, reaching out to all these different guests and recording all these different people. We get to Christmas Day now, and I just said to her, "Look, I've got a really good feeling about this. Give Shaq a call now." She gave him a call, and he's like, "Hey, how's it going? Are we still going to do the podcast?" And he's like, "Yeah, we're going to do it. We're going to do it tonight." I was like, "Yeah, it's going to happen. It's going to happen." So it's again, same thing, set a time.
Mm-hmm.
We get to 10 o'clock. That was the time that was agreed, because obviously he's 5 hours behind in it. But obviously, bear in mind it's Christmas Day, so we're thinking, right, okay, cool, man's going to do it on Christmas Day,
Wait. I just clocked what you just said. You said, call him Christmas Day. That's it. Well, it's going to happen today. Boy, that's the confidence there. I love that.
That's it. So literally, got to 10 o'clock as the time that was agreed, because basically I think we spoke to him around about, I want to say about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And he's like, "Look, I'm just about to head out to go to, family's house, have some dinner or whatever, and I'll be back in a couple of hours, and then we'll go for it. So let's just say 10 to be on the safe side sort of thing." No problem. Get to 10, nothing. Get to 11, nothing. Get to 12, nothing. We're thinking, not again, this is long, innit? But I was like, no, but my missus was like, "It's not going to happen." No, it's going to happen. Just be patient. It's going to happen tonight. I've got such a good feeling about this. So we get to about 12:30. Missus is like, "No, I'm too tired for this. I'm going to jump in the bath, wipe off the makeup, all of that stuff." She's in bed now. It's about 1 o'clock now, maybe just after 1. And she gets a text. "Let's go. I'm ready. Let's go." I was like, she's like, I think I was in the bath at this point. She goes, "I just got a text." I was like, "Who was it?" He's like, "Shaq." He said, "Let's go." So we've got to go then, isn't it?
Yeah.
She's like,
Let's make it happen.
Exactly. She's like, "I wipe my makeup off. I'm not ready anymore. I've got to get ready again." I said, "You better get ready then, isn't it?"
That's crazy, man.
I told you it's going to happen tonight. So jump on the call. And And like I said, he's quite a playful guy, and
Yeah.
straight away from the offset, it was just cool vibes. It wasn't like it was. And I generally, I'm not really someone who gets like starstruck or anything. So it was just for me, it's just like chatting to someone else and just just busting joke. And the kind of person he is, he just makes you feel at ease as well. So it was really good from that perspective. So we kind of just flowed, and I basically brought one of my brethren into it as well because I just thought it was one of my close brethren. Been there for me through a lot of stuff, and I guess it's a way to kind of in some ways repay a favor almost. So he's got his own podcast as well, and I thought it'd be good for him to maybe get some exposure on it as well. But the amount of people I told on the way, I said, "Yeah, I'm going to interview Shaq. I'm going to interview Shaq." Like, nah. Or it's like one of them ones where maybe in the future. So now I'm saying now I'm going to interview Shaq. It's going to happen this month. It's going to happen this month, and it's almost like they take it with a pinch of salt. And then even after I did it, even my missus after we did it, she was telling people, "Yeah, we interviewed Shaq," and people thought it was just might have been like some sort of clickbait. You know what I mean? No. This happened. You know what I mean? To the point where I think people only really started to kind of, I guess, take it on board when I sent them a video of him saying, "Right, hey guys, it's Shaq. I've just joined Coach Yes on the Coaches Network," and they're like, "Rah."
That's crazy.
So this shit actually happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I tried telling you. But obviously people don't want to really hear it. I guess it's one of them ones that it sounds so far-fetched and unbelievable because I don't know about you, but I don't know when you want to see you Shaq.
No, I don't.
Do you know what I mean? So for me, it's like, I can understand why people might not believe it, but come and have some confidence. You know, everyone's there. And I think now it's the thing where if I say to someone, I'm going to interview this person, like, cool, what date? It's not even a question if it's going to happen. It's just, is it? So I guess that's kind of the backdrop for that, really. And I guess done the episode and it was dope. So I guess coming back to your question, what was the biggest thing I learned from it was just be confident. Do you know what I mean? Have the drive, have the self-belief. If you've got that self-belief, no one can kind of stand in your way. If life's taught me anything regarding that, is resilience teaches you things. Setbacks teach you things if you're willing to learn from them. So for me, is literally, just if you've got an idea or you've got a vision, don't let anything stand in the way of that. But don't expect others to have the same passion for it that you might have. Don't get me wrong, there might be other people that are on the way that can help you along that journey, but it might not necessarily have the same drive and passion. And I think one of the probably biggest things this whole situation has taught me is that you can't do anything alone, as much as you might want to. But it's just understanding having the right people around you. Like I said, for me, that was my missus. From this whole process, from start to up till now, and it's just been us kind of working together off our own backs, just trying to put everything together. So literally everything that you see is just me and her, whether that be social media stuff, whether it be editing the podcast, whether it be the content, doing the interviews or whatever that might be. It's just literally been me and her. So I think that's one of the, I guess, most important things for me is having those people around you that are going to support you through it, and even if they don't see it, they're just going to back your vision.
That's powerful, man, bro. Like, do you know what? Like, for me personally, my takes on what you just said, first of all, it's inspiring just to hear the confidence as well. Like, I can relate to that because when I first started off, I was like, I'm going to hit up just whoever. To me, it's not a problem. And for me, the power of writing down your goals is important. Do you know what I mean? Because now you've got something that you can look forward to. Now you've got something that you're striving towards. Why not go for the biggest names or whatever your goal is? Why not have that? So for you to have that list is important for you to kind of navigate where you're going. And the most important thing that you said to me, what I got from it was, behind every successful man, there's a strong woman. Do you know what I mean? So having that behind you, and I can relate. Same thing with me and my missus, that she's the one that encourages me to sometimes there might be days where I'm like, I don't really feel like doing a podcast today, because the same thing that where you said you've recorded like 50 episodes. Same thing. I've still got episodes that I've done from when I first started in March. I've got another 30 episodes that I've done that haven't been released, and that's only the reason why it hasn't been released, because it was an audio format, and I quickly moved into the video format, and it was kind of the thing where it's like, cool, how can I transition? So definitely relate to everything that you're saying in terms of, again, having a vision, having a goal, like understanding where you're going with it, and be brave with it, be bold with it, like test yourself. Why can't I have Shaquille? Why can't I have David Beckham? Why can't I have whoever, Thierry Henry, whoever you want? Like, I've done the same thing. I've got a list of who I'd like to get on the podcast. Some of them might not be household names, but I know their story and I know how effective it might be
But you
for
know
other
what?
people. Do you know what I mean?
You make a great point there, and I think two things to kind of take away from that. First of all, you talked there about having those episodes there, and this is another lesson I've learned through this process is I'm a bit of a perfectionist.
Yeah.
I've learned to kind of not to be now. As much as I still got those tendencies, I've learned to kind of not to be, because it's not about, you're not putting that content out there because it's just audio and you've got your visual podcast. But I would say to you, put it out there.
Yeah, 100%.
And see, there's different ways of working, because you could probably learn another way. Okay, you know what? Actually, on this occasion, I might not be able to get video podcast up, but I've got the audio for it. I can tag this along with the visuals, and that can create a whole different dynamic of what you're doing. And for me, for a long while, I've had video episodes that I've been sitting on for a minute, but I haven't released them because I thought I'm not really happy with where the content's at in terms of the visual aspects of it, and even in terms of branding and all of that stuff. But then I realized actually all of that stuff's great, but what people really kind of tune into is the meat and the potatoes. The meat and potatoes is the content of what you're actually putting together. So if it is an audio podcast, all they're interested in is what's actually happening in there. What's the conversation about? Is the conversation something worthy? Yeah, all the other stuff, and fair play to you, the stuff looks great, but it's really, I'm not going to come to Gerald Lami's podcast to watch his podcast just because of the visuals.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm coming to listen to the conversation, and that's the key thing you remember. That's the thing that I was struggling with for a long time before I actually started putting some of the video stuff out. Even now, I've still got videos. I'm thinking I'm not putting the video out because I'm not happy where the content's at. That's why if you see with my one, I haven't really pushed the YouTube stuff too much. It's been taken off obviously with the Spotify and all the I guess the audio platforms. So I think from that perspective, that's one thing I'll definitely say. Don't wait for it to be perfect. So if you've got the content there, put it out there, because there's probably a whole lot of gems in that stuff that you've got that people are now not getting access to because you don't think you're ready for it.
100%. You know what it is, bro? Like in terms of what you said there, 100%. Like when I first started, so the people that I got around me, I would say mainly they're like perfectionists. What you said, like yourself, it's like, I need to make sure that this is done in this way, etc. Like for me, I'm a guy where I'm like, all right, cool, let's just get this out. Let's just get this out. Do you know what I mean? And that was the first thing when I first started, was like, all right, cool. I don't have the skills to do the editing. I don't have the skills to do the recording, etc. All of that. Do you know what I mean? You learn on the job. Do you know what I mean? And that's the way where we've come from, is like you learn on the job. No one's given us that
100%.
that sort of education or like the freedom to go and test things out and have the facilities to do things. You learn on the job. Do you know what I mean? So again, starting this journey, I've learned so much, even down to like editing and things like that. For you, how do you manage all of that? Because for me, speaking from my experience, literally from getting the guests to writing out the message to try and get them, to writing out the questions and doing research on the guest, to recording, to editing, to promoting it, the whole list is like, people think it's a joke. It's actually time consuming. How do you manage all of that?
For me, the first thing to kind of say, I'm now not just a football coach. I'm a content creator. I'm a visual graphics editor. I'm motion graphics, all of this. I'm everything. I'm audio engineer, bro. So I've kind of developed all these skills, and on the way, and I guess this along the way, just as with anything, you learn on the job. You try and find ways to kind of streamline your processes a little bit. I think one thing I probably had an advantage, over maybe yourself in this respect, is that mine's been mainly audio. So I haven't had to mess around too much with the video stuff. And that's something I'm very conscious of. So I guess for me, in terms of editing the audio aspect, I've kind of picked up a way to kind of make it easier for me. So if I'm sitting here recording the episode, I'll be making notes throughout the conversation. So I'll be timestamping certain points. I'll be so that when I get to the editing part, I can just hook it out and do all of that stuff quite quickly. The other part is obviously my show isn't really segmented in any way, where I'm going from one area to another area to another. It's just a conversation. So I think it's a lot easier for me to kind of just leave it as it is, rather than have to kind of clip this bit out, clip that bit out, unless I want to get specific parts. So I think from that perspective, it's a lot simpler for me to do it. But I guess where in the beginning I was having to listen back to the whole thing, and then I was doing this and doing that, and then I find that this is taking too much time. So like I said, when I started timestamping things, making notes of particular things that might have been said, quotes or phrases that were said in the episode, and doing it that way, I found myself being able to edit a lot easier. So where it was maybe taking me previously when I first started, probably 2 hours to kind of edit one episode, now it's probably taking me 10 minutes. and I won't usually wait to go and do it. It's literally straight after I finish recording, boom, 10 minutes, ready, it's ready to go, packaged. And it's uploaded, saved, sent over to the guests. They can have a listen to it, and it's all done within like 10, 15 minutes of it of me completing recording. So I guess I kind of just found a way to kind of streamline that process now. So I guess from that perspective, that's one aspect of it. But you're right, it's difficult, man, in terms of managing time as well.
Yeah.
Because I've got guests coming out left, right, and center. I'm now doing 3 episodes a week at the moment. And similar
You're
to
full time, bro.
I've still got a stack of episodes that are there, and not only like I said at the top of the conversation, I've got a few other projects I'm working on now. I'm even still studying. I'm doing my masters at the moment, so I'm in the midst of trying to get my dissertation done, and I'm recording here, I'm recording here, and then obviously, as you know, with guests, you got to kind of fit your time around them a little bit.
Yeah.
Obviously, you've got a schedule that you need to work by, but you've got to kind of be flexible a little bit more. And never mind the fact that I've got a 1-year-old running around the house,
so I've got a family.
Kind of go through a time. Do you know what I mean? I've got to go for a time where it doesn't mess with the family dynamic too much, and also it's probably when my little one's sleeping.
Yeah.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
So I remember when we recorded our one, it was like 6:30 a.m. for me.
Yeah.
But my little one's gonna be up. I'm cool.
Yeah.
You know, if it's between that 8 and 9, he's up. He's causing havoc. But
yeah.
You see, it's about timing. So I think from those are some of the things that you kind of do to manage it. In terms of guests, in terms of research, I guess because my show is a little bit different. If I'm reaching out to, I've got 2 elements to it: the how-to series and the insight series. On the how-to series, I'm bringing you on because I already know about your expertise. So I guess from that perspective, I don't have to do too much research because I already know the work that you do. And then the insight series, the beauty of that one is, again, I don't really have to do too much research because we're just having a conversation about your journey. So, like I said at the top of the conversation, I feel like I'm quite good at asking questions and unraveling things and picking below the surface. So it's whatever we're talking about, I'll have something I can say on it. Obviously, I have an idea of who you are and what you've kind of done in brief. But I don't find myself getting too bogged down with the research element because I'm quite good at improvising in terms of having that conversation and just going wherever it takes us, and kind of I know what I would like to kind of maybe get out from the conversation, even if I don't know your journey specifically. So I guess I'm quite good at maybe segueing back into those different parts that I want to kind of pick on, but also allowing you the freedom to kind of talk about whatever it is that you want to talk about.
No, dope, man. And you know what? Going back to what you said earlier on, I kind of brushed over it in terms of the determination that you have as well. Like you're saying, when we did it, I was obviously in a different time zone. You're having to wake up at 6:30 to get that done. With Shaq, it was a thing where it's like, no, we're doing it today. We're staying up 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. Some people will be like, I don't care who you are. I'm not waiting 2, 3 o'clock in the morning to do an episode with you. So I think that, let alone, will show and test the time where you're still going. It's that stamina, it's that determination to keep going, because it's not easy at all. Like it might look easy, but again, it's those things behind the scenes that people don't see, that you're like, I'm having sometimes I do the same thing. I'm having to have a podcast at 1 a.m 2 a.m where it's like I'm actually tired, but you know what, I've got to get this done because you know why, I've committed to this now, and I'm someone that if I'm committed 100%. To it, I'm gonna do it. Do you know what I mean? And it's not just for 100%. Me, the value that it's bringing to people. And I'm sure 100% you've had people that's messaged you and said, you know what, yes, that episode that you did with X, Y, and Z, that was inspiring. Like, that's made me want to do this. And you know what I mean? So it's like, once you get those messages, you say to yourself, there's no way I can quit.
Worth it.
I can't quit.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I'm bringing something valuable. Like, I'm building something with someone that I've created life with. Like, there's so much elements to this, like, sort of journey. Do you know what I mean? And like 100%. You said, you're not just a coach no more. Same thing with, I'm not a coach no more. I can edit. Same thing like you can edit. You're a content creator. So it's like, it's a beautiful journey, and you've added skills and you've added tools to even down to what you're saying, you know, your coach mentoring and things like that, where you might have been able to ask questions before, but I'm sure from you doing this has helped you to develop even more when you do have those conversations. 100%. Do you know what I mean? So 100%. It's like, it's a beautiful journey, man. But where do you see your podcast going towards?
Honestly, bro, I'm just taking each day as it comes. Like I said, you know, I touched on it earlier, and I was in 20 plus countries at the time. Got to Christmas. You know, I've just released an episode with Sol Campbell, which again, I find that's one of my biggest achievements. You know, not many people even interview Sol Campbell, and then I guess with the whole Shaq thing, kind of glossed over that a little bit in the sense that at that point, I think I was 25 countries by Christmas, by New Year's Day, by January 3rd or December 31st, 29 countries released the Shaq episode on New Year's Day, and within a week of that coming out, I've gone from being in 30 countries to 69 countries now across the world.
Massive.
So I think it's just taking each step as it comes to see where it goes. I don't know where it's going to go, and for me, take it off the back of that. I don't know, just take each step as it comes, man. I've got ideas. I've got loads of ideas. I'm sure you have as well about where it's going to go next and how it's going to develop. But for me, it's just taking one step at a time and seeing where it does go and how we can kind of grow it. I'm in the next probably phases to kind of monetize it in some way. Get brand partnerships and all that sort of stuff. But for me, it's just about learning. I mean, one of the biggest reasons I did it in the first place because it gave me an opportunity to kind of speak to different people, network, and obviously pick their brains around their journeys. And I've got, and the other thing is I'm trying to be inclusive with it. I've got people who have done a lot. I've got people who are just starting out. And I think the beauty of that is that my podcast is about the journey of the individual. That's all it's about. It's not about whether you've won 5 Premier Leagues. It's not about whether you've managed in the Champions League. It's not about whether you've managed in the Euros or the World Cup. It's not about any of that stuff. It's just about your journey. And no matter whose journey is, there's going to be something in that journey that I can pull out as, I guess, a golden nugget for people to kind of think, actually, that's quite interesting. That I can relate to that. And that's all it is for me. And it's just having those moments where you can relate. And that's it, really, man.
100%.
So I guess to answer your question, I don't really know where it's going to go next.
No. Do you know what? That's the beauty of it, though, as well, because you're not setting any limitations to where you are going. Do you know what I mean? You have aspirations, you have ambitions, and of course, just me having this conversation with you and seeing. Obviously, we've spoken before as well in terms of when I've come on your podcast. And one thing that I did love about the process of getting onto your podcast was the thoroughness of communication, where it was the email that was sent, it was detailed, it was like there was no miscommunication in terms of like this is what's expected on the show, etc. Where that's where you see the growth of the podcast, because you're actually taking time, you're actually working towards what you want to do. Do you know what I mean? It's like, for me, and again, listening to you and your mindset, like 100% the podcast is going to go, like you say, you're not too sure where it's going to go, but it's going to head to some sort of direction. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, man. So it's powerful, 100%. Just speaking of a little bit about your football journey as well, like how did you get into this whole coaching aspect, and where was you coaching previously?
Yes, I mean, to kind of, I guess, give you the short version, really. 17, 18, just finished college. Didn't really know what I wanted to do next. I knew that, obviously, I was sort of passionate about football growing up. Never knew how I wanted to work with, I guess, in coaching. I didn't even know I wanted to be in any sort of instructor or teaching capacity at all. I never expected it either. Never considered myself as an academic. I was quite bright in school, but I never really, I guess, paid it too much mind. I guess 16, 17 college, fell into the wrong crowd a little bit, landed myself in a situation where I ended up with some convictions. And I guess from there, it was kind of making a decision, right, okay, what am I going to do next? Am I going to carry on with what I'm doing, or am I going to have to do something different? So, over the years, people have spoken to me about the idea of, maybe you should go into coaching, because I knew quite a few coaches at the time, or certainly growing up anyway. And I guess it was the first time where I thought, okay, let me actually go and do something. So I just, after that, and I had those troubles, did my level 1, and to be honest, I haven't looked back since. And then through that, I've worked in every single environment you can think of. I worked in schools, I worked in after-school clubs, I worked in grassroots boys, grassroots girls, I worked in grassroots with senior men's and women's teams, I worked in universities, I worked in colleges, I worked in academies, and now more recently working as a coach educator. So I've kind of gone right through all the aspects of that, those environments, and over the course of those years, as you touched on the top of the conversation, I've got my A license, and I've done level 1, level 2, level 3, got my UEFA A license, got my advanced youth award. I've worked in, I guess, like I said, professional academies, both as an outfield coach, as a goalkeeping coach. So I've got quite a depth and wealth range of experiences across the different aspects of I guess, the coaching space. And I guess in short, that's the short version, and then there's a couple key bits to kind of pull out in between that. So I did my one within a couple months of me doing. I did my module 1, module 2, the youth award, which was kind of new at the time. So this is going back around 2010. And I did my level 2 all inside like the first 12 to 15 months of me starting coaching, and I just caught the bug really. And then what happened was, I'm not sure if you remember, there was the Licensed Coaches Club.
Yeah.
The FA Licensed Coaches Club at the time, but before that came into place, you had to maybe do like your DBS, your CRB checks with the club that you're working with, or the organisation you're working with. So that was the case there. So the organisation I was working with at the time was actually a club that I used to play for when I was little. And they knew about my situation and whatever, but obviously the FA Licensed Coach Club wasn't in place. So when it did come into place, and when it was time for me to renew my DBS, it came up on their system like, you've got XYZ, you can't be working in this environment. What you're not on about.
It's got nothing to do with kids.
It's got nothing to do with kids. I've been doing this for 2 years now. The club knows about it, and so anyways, they kind of said to me, right, well, you've got we're going to give you a permanent ban from youth football.
I had the same thing.
What? This is madness. So for me, it was just like, I thought, dead, scrap it, knock it on its head. And then I guess I was just twiddling my thumbs for the next 12 months, and I was thinking to myself, well, what am I doing? And I guess that time apart made me miss the coaching aspect.
Yeah.
Okay, now I need to do something about this. I went and appealed it, and I guess the rest was history. So after I got it overturned, did my UFB license within a few months of that. Got my first job in academy football a few months after that. And then from there, just everything's kind of went from one thing to the next. So in that time, B license, A license, goalkeeping B license, advanced youth award, and like I said, a couple of years later, now I'm working in the coach education space. I'm looking to try and maybe get back into a club now. But again, who knows where it's going to go next? If I don't know, BBC Sport, if you're listening, see
They're
the
definitely
podcast.
listening. Everyone's listening. Sky Sports listening. They're all listening.
That's it, man. That's it.
Do you know what? Do you know what? Sorry, bro, to cut you off. Like, because you speaking is I can relate so much to it, man. And it's like, it's crazy how it's similar stories, even though we're on the other side of the city or other side of the world or whatever. It's like we've gone through similar journeys. And would you say, because for me speaking personally, like I've been through the situation, what you said, and for me, I use that as a fuel to say, you know what, I'm going to prove to you guys that this wasn't me back in the days. This was another person. This was another situation that was not out of my control, because obviously we all have choices and we have to lay with them. Do you know what I mean? But it's a thing where, like, I was young at that time. Do you know what I mean? I've grown as a person. I've learned so much things. Did you use that circumstance to fuel you? Because right now, bro, if you look at your journey and what you've done and what you've achieved already, and how much tools you have in your toolbox, you outweigh a lot of people that might be in certain positions, because you know how it feels to be at the bottom of the barrel. You know how it feels to be in the grassroots level, like you said, whether it will be coaching boys, coaching girls. You know how it is to be in academy level. You know how it is to be in first team level. Like, what you're going into content creating, you're going into giving valuable information to people. Like, there's so much different avenues that you can give to others. Like, going back to the question, did you use that as a fuel, that situation where you had that ban because of whatever you did in the past that's got nothing to do with what you're doing at the moment? Did that give you that strength and to say, you know what, I'm gonna prove you guys wrong?
Yeah, a little bit, in the sense that people have got a perception of you.
Yeah.
They've got a perception because of what you've done. And I guess it's so fickle as well. People are fickle in the sense that I noticed that, right, prior to obviously me coming back in, or prior to those obviously I'd had the situation, but people there was only so many applications that and this is one thing, I've always been good at doing job applications. I always get interviews, and I've always been fortunate. And I'll get to that stage where they're like, so we're going to do your CRB check. Is anything going to show up? And it's like, yeah, of course this is what's going to happen. You're going to see this and this and this. I'll be quite open and honest with you. There's no point hiding it, because it's going to come out eventually. And so we can't offer you a job. Okay, you've thought I'm acceptable and applicable and eligible for this job based on what I've demonstrated in this interview. But you're now not going to give me a job because something happened. No problem. But then there was almost a shift. As soon as I got a job in academy football, and they could see, oh, this person's working in academy football, it was that just went. I never had no problem with that again. So I guess from that perspective, it was a bit of a drive to say, okay, well, I ain't gonna work for you. I don't need to work for you if you don't want to employ me because of this, because of something I did back then. And the amount of times I've had people now come back to me after that situation, oh, you still look for a job? Nah, I'm good,
Yeah.
I'll just keep moving. But I guess to answer your question, it was a little bit of a driving force, a little bit. That alongside the, mate, I'm a brown guy, I'm an Asian guy.
Yeah.
We don't exist. We're not visible in the game. And a lot of people maybe have a subconscious bias to view us in a way where we almost don't belong in the game. So for me, that was probably one of my biggest driving forces. And that, my goal was, I've done it. My goal was probably, I've still got ambitions to work in there, but my goal was I want to be the first Asian coach in the Premier League. I was probably gassed. So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do this. And this, obviously, as time goes on, things change. Your mindset shifts a little bit. Your goals change. And that's not necessarily to say that it's still not an ambition of mine. I would love to work in the Premier League, but it's maybe not in the same way that I maybe would have anticipated back then. So that's probably one of my biggest driving forces to kind of break through and prove that I guess people like me that look like me have got a space and a place in the game. Mm-hmm. But I think the biggest driving force is, around that time where I had that suspension and I was coming back into it was just after the birth of my first child. Mm-hmm. So I've got a daughter from my previous relationship. And it was at that point, oh gosh, I'm 22. I've just become a dad. And what am I going to do? What am I going to do? So I was like, okay, I need to do something I enjoy because I want to spend time with my little one. But I also want to be around and I also want to do something I enjoy because I want to kind of lead by example. Don't do something that you're not necessarily happy with. And obviously, you can't be happy with everything you do or satisfied with everything you do, but follow your passion essentially. Do you know what I mean? And for me, that was it. I wanted to work in football. I wanted to work as a coach, not anything else. I wanted to work as a coach. I enjoy working with players. I enjoy the actual on the field stuff. So people often ask me, do you ever want to go into management? I'm not too sure about that. I see myself as more about actually a person who's on the grass with the players. Not to say managers don't do that, but I'm more interested in that stuff, or I'm more interested in actually working with coaches. I kind of take myself back to my level one. I remember sitting there on my level one, and it was in Douglas area in Walthamstow, Blackwell Road. I'm sitting there thinking to myself, the first thing I come in, I see this guy, and I wasn't sure what to expect, and I see these two guys. We had a guy called Dan McClune. I'm not sure if you ever heard of him.
No, I haven't.
And a guy called Ray Lee. Ray Lee does a lot of stuff in and around London, especially like North and East London. And I think, fun enough, I think it was one of Ray's first courses. And Ray's a black man, and I think, wow, they're letting ethnic people teach football. Mm-hmm. I want to do that. Mm-hmm. I didn't know. Lo and behold, 7 years down the line, I'm now doing that. I want to do that. I could see myself then. I can do that. I want to do that. I want to work with coaches. I want to teach football. I was so passionate about football at the time, and I didn't know anything about coaching, but I just knew I loved the game. And probably similar to yourself, we get involved in football not because we necessarily want to be coaches, but we, for a lot of us, we see it as the next best thing to not being able to play. Yeah. So that was probably my driving force. Just obviously that goal of I wanted to be the first Asian coach in the Premier League, and having a daughter, and I guess for me that was just kind of the rest of it was history. Now I can't make this work, and it's not been easy. I'm still nowhere near where I want to be. But I still persevering. Do you know what I mean? And that's the biggest thing.
100%, man. And speaking about the whole diversity things in the coaching industry, obviously it's clear, it's evident to see that there is a lack of diversity in the backroom staff and things like that. And obviously the Premier League's come out with a scheme now where they're opening up the doors to the whole situation. How do you see that planning out? Do you see it as just kind of like papering over the cracks, or do you see it as this is going to be a long-term fix?
No, it's interesting. It's a good point. I think for me, there's a couple things here. The FA, the governing body, the Premier League, the PFA, all these stakeholders, they're doing great stuff in terms of putting some of these initiatives out there, but they can only do so much. I remember having this conversation a few days ago with a few other coaches and people, and so just talking about this whole inclusion and diversity and stuff like that. I think the problem is, it's not about diversity.
Mm-hmm.
Diversity is not the issue. It's inclusion. And that's the thing that needs to be remembered. Diversity is just a stat.
Yeah.
It's diversity is me saying, right, all right, cool, Gerald's from Albania, so let's tick him off. We've got one of them in the building. You know, Yas is from this place and this person's from that place. Yeah, let's just tick all these people so we can show that we've got diversity.
Mm-hmm.
Don't mean nothing. Diversity doesn't mean nothing. Inclusion is the part that we need to kind of nail and tuck into. So I think for me, when we're now looking at inclusion, all these schemes are fantastic. But if we go back to the start where these schemes started coming first into place, so if I go back, funnily enough, around the time where I actually got involved in coaching in the first place, or started to do my B license, or actually got my suspension, I'd just been involved in the FA had this coach bursary program.
Mm-hmm.
It's still doing it now, but when it was in its first original format, it was literally called the coach bursary. It was the coach program, the BAME coach program, or something like that. And it was run by Brendan Batson. They got all these people. We went up to St. George's Park, and there's this big old thing. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was Roy Hodgson at the time was the England manager. He kind of did like a presentation for everyone, or welcomed everyone, or whatever. And so I was kind of one of the first people from the Black and Asian community to be part of this whole bursary scheme. And this is my only issue with, and talking about the different things that they've got. So they've got the bursary scheme. Now, I think it's a fantastic thing to have there. However, I don't think it's the answer. I don't think it's even needed, if I'm honest. Don't get me wrong, Gerald, if you go and apply for a bursary and give it to you, by all means, go and take it, bro. Go and take it. But my problem is with things like this is from my experience, I've seen it's almost put this mindset into a lot of ethnic coaches of we're entitled to a bursary, so we deserve a bursary. Forget the bursary, because the bursary wasn't there. What would you do?
Yeah.
If you want it bad enough, you don't need to rely on the bursary to do it. Yes, it might impact your journey and the length it takes you, or the time it takes you to get there. But if you want it bad enough, you will get there. Yes, there is loads of biases. There's all these things that do happen. However, you don't need a bursary to make it happen. And I get what the FA basically, or the program was basically to say, right, if we can get more of these people qualified, then there's more of them in the shop window, essentially, which I understand. But then what also happens is, when you've got bursaries and things like that, a lot of people go jump on the bursary, jump on these qualifications, but they don't have any intention or ambition of becoming career coaches. Yeah. So you end up getting more people qualified, and the more people in the shop window, but then it's more likely that some of the wrong people are getting picked out from the shop window. Yeah. And then they can then have a bad impact on the future of the rest of the people from those communities. And I genuinely believe that, because the amount of times where someone has gone in, and this is why there's such a big stigma around right now about getting a black coach in at the top level, because so we've got black coaching, he didn't do too well, so now that represents the whole group. But it doesn't work, because if it was an English guy, if it was a Spanish guy, we'd be like, no, he's just a one-off. If it's an ethnic person, he's now representing the whole community.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's just like, how's that fair? How does that make any sense? Because you wouldn't do that in any other community. You wouldn't do that with with your, like I say, with your Eastern Europe, or with the whole of Western Europe and all of that. And it's just like, it's crazy to think that's how it works, but that's kind of how it works. So you've got the amount of times, and this the other problem I see with things like this is, and it's the thing I'll never understand. And I guess the only explanation I've got for it is that it's lack of confidence or fear. Is that when you get an ethnic coach in an environment like an academy or whatnot, I find from my experience, it's maybe changing a little bit more now, because maybe there's more, exposure to the situation, but they often don't want to hold the door open for any other people. I'm not saying they have to, or they don't, but I find in my situation, whenever I've been in a position where I can bring other people in, more specifically from an underrepresented background, I'm bringing you in.
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not just going to bring anyone and everyone in,
Mm.
because you still need to have some credibility behind you. You still need to do the job, essentially.
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
I'll bring you in. I'm going to help you out. You know, it doesn't hurt me to kind of open a door for you. And I think where a lot of people go wrong is, and this is the other problem. So a lot of ethnic people, from my understanding or my experience, is that they go into these environments and they're just happy to be the
I think it comes with a fear. Sorry,
Mm.
bro. I think it comes with that fear of, like, if I do bring someone else, like, there might be too many of us. Do you know what I mean? And it's a thing where it's like there shouldn't be too many of us. Do you know what I mean?
There can't be too many of us. And the thing is, you've got that fear. The reality is, for all that kind of really just rings alarm bells for me, that actually you don't think you're good enough to be here.
Yeah. I get you.
And if you did think you were good enough to be here, you wouldn't be bothered about what next man over there is doing. And when you bring in, I could bring 10 people in.
Yeah.
I'm so confident in what I can do. I'm saying to myself, you man ain't as good as me. You man can't do what I can do.
Yeah.
I'll bring you guys in, but I don't see you as competition. And that's just that's the reality of it.
100%. And you know what? After all of this, the most important part of this, it affects the players. It affects the development of players. This is why sometimes we're talking about, oh, why are we not getting enough players coming out of the system and you know, doing well in like major competitions and whatnot, because majority of these players come from a certain environment. Some of these coaches, speaking from my experience, speaking like when I've been in academies and things like that, some coaches don't understand where I've come from. So they don't know how to deal with emotions that I'm going through or what's going on in my area and things like that. So eventually you're going to get dropouts. You might miss out on players that, you know, might have been so-and-so, do you know what I mean? But you don't know, because they've not been given the certain tools or nurtured. I'm not saying, obviously it's a hard game to break through. I'm not saying because of the coaches they're not making it, do you know what I mean? Because we've seen now there's the development of players coming through.
A lot of it is down to that, though.
Yeah.
A lot of it is down to that. That's why there's some clubs out doing some fantastic work in recognizing some of these things. So, you know, the likes of Fulham, the likes of Wolverhampton Wanderers, where they actually now, or even Arsenal to an extent now, they're actually going out the way to employ people who look like the players.
Yeah.
Who can relate to the players. 100%. Like, you know, people have perceptions. People have, you know, biases based on their own experiences and their upbringings and what they've been exposed to. So, for instance, I'll give you an example. I'm an Asian man. My mom's from Pakistan. My dad's, you know, Asian descent, but you know, his family are from Africa. That's how I've grown up. That's what I know. But actually, over time, because I've associated with a lot more people from, you know, from Western Africa and you know, the Caribbean. You know, I've become more aware and understanding of their culture. And then I've gone and had, you know, a child. My first daughter, you know, she's half Jamaican, so I've now had to make a bit more of an understanding of that culture. Now I've got another child with my current missus, you know, who's East African, and it's like, and now I've got to understand the Eritrean culture, and it's like, for me, I think to myself, I'm in the cauldron of cultures right now. So for someone comes to me and says to me, oh, you know, wants to talk about certain things, I can probably feel like, I can actually have it saying that because I know a bit about that stuff. Or if I do come across a player from different cultures, and you know, I understand.
You grew up in that environment, bro. You understand.
You've had more exposure, and I think even just as an ethnic person in general, culture is a massive thing.
100%.
Culture is a massive thing, which is maybe not so prevalent in the Western world. So, you know, just little things like, you know, I'm sure you probably had it, you know, with certain phrases or certain sayings that they have in your culture, and you think to myself, it's almost like in some ways, okay, well, I can't really tell the guys in the Western world, but they don't think I'm nuts. But actually,
it won't make sense to them.
This makes complete sense.
100%.
You know what I mean? And it's like just having those little quirks to who you are as a person and what you represent. You can start to be like, you know, actually, I might not know what your culture is directly, but I can understand the dynamics of how it might work, because I've experienced that too in a different way, and the wording might be different, and the meanings behind what we do might be different, but the concepts are the same. In that it's a cultural thing. It's a cultural thing, and that's the thing where a lot of people in the Western world don't understand. Especially when it comes to now working with athletes in the elite environments. That's why I say the clubs like the Fulhams, that you work your Wolves, your Arsenal, are doing well, especially if you're working in an environment.
They're doing some good stuff. QPR, Chris Ramsey,
exactly. And but it's like you have to represent the community that you're working in. So if I'm working in, I don't know, Plymouth.
Yeah.
Right. If I'm going down to Plymouth and I'm working in Plymouth, I ain't gonna expect to see people like me.
Yeah. And that's
If
only
I'm working
fair.
in a city, London,
Yeah.
then yeah, I'm gonna see people like me. I have to see
Yeah.
people like me because that's what the community is. So
Mm-hmm.
London's one of the probably, one of the most diverse cities in the world. So you can, and as the game's growing, this I remember speaking to one of our mentors a few weeks back, and he was telling me that if you go back maybe 20, 30 years ago, probably 30 years ago, Graham Taylor was in charge of the England team, and he was told you have to change your squad because you've got too many black players in it.
That's crazy to say that.
You have too many black players in your squad, so you have to change your squad because the media's not going to like this. Now, if you look at the squad now, majority of them are black.
Yeah.
So if majority of them are black, then at some point you're going to have to shift the dynamic of the coaching culture. The representation within the coaching is going to have to change. And you said something earlier that there's not enough representation in the backroom staff, and I don't think it's the backroom staff that's the issue. It's the coaching staff. You look at strength and conditioning, you look at psychologists, you look at the medical department, you look at all these other player care, you look at all these other aspects of player development or athlete development, or whether it be at youth level or elite level. We're there.
Yeah.
When it comes to coaching, it's like, no, you man can stay over there.
Yeah.
This is our game. You lot can do all the other things that we don't want to do. That's basically that way I see it. It's like they're keeping coaching to themselves.
Yeah.
And that's the bit where lacks inclusion.
Yeah, man.
And again, it's like I said, diversity for me is just it's a stat, but the inclusion part is the actual act of it. If you can be inclusive and not integrated, not diverse, but inclusive, that's what needs to happen. And I think that's the way that we're going to kind of get some success and move forward. So coming back to your initial question about the schemes and in the Premier League, this new scheme out, I think it's fantastic in principle, but what my experience has also shown me, my observations also show me, is these schemes are great. But what's happening, if you look carefully, they're saying they want to boost the numbers of it. Or now it's more deemed, rather than previously it was kind of a wider ethnic community. Yeah. Now it's more specific to the Black and Asian community and female coaches at this point in time. But what's actually happening is they're saying they want to increase the numbers of those coaches. But what they're really doing, if you look at it carefully, is they're looking at people who are maybe working part-time, moving them into full-time, but not replenishing those part-time. So on the eye, it looks like the numbers are increasing, but actually they're not.
The overall picture, that's not.
The overall picture hasn't changed. And that's what a lot of people are getting confused. They're not seeing that. And I'm saying, right, hold on a second. You're putting this initiative in there. And I'm not saying to you, and this is the key part, I don't think these initiatives are great in the long run, because all you're going to do is someone's going to go in there, like you just talked about this Premier League initiative. Now they put a new initiative out just now, I think it's like a two-year program or whatever it is.
Yeah.
You go in there for 2 years. After that 2 years,
what's happening?
You're back to square one. I know people who have gone and worked for England. I know people who have gone and worked for other clubs as part of some of these initiatives, and they still can't get nothing after they've done it. My guy's over here, he's had a year or two working in the England setup with the FA. How are you not getting a job? I don't understand it.
Yeah, it's mad, bro.
Johnny from UEFA B license 2 weeks ago just passed, and now he's got a job.
Or university.
Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying the qualification doesn't mean anything. I'm not saying that, because obviously a lot of this is down to networking and experience as well. But it doesn't make sense. And so when you look at some of these initiatives, I think they're great in principle. But if you look at what they're actually doing, they I don't know if they're really helping. Because I can speak back to an experience. When I did my A license, for instance, there was a conversation that took place on my A license around underrepresentation. And at the time, my course was, I guess, not specifically for, but it was geared around getting more female and Black and Asian coaches on. So you still had the white males, and but my course, I think in total you had about 30. I think I want to say 32. It might have been 38 people.
Okay.
In the course. Actually, no, sorry, apologies. It was 44 because there was 4 groups of 12. So 4 groups of 12, yeah. And on that course, out of the 44, 19 of them were female. First course has ever been delivered in a way where there's that many females outweighing maybe the ratios. And then I think in total, so we had 19 females, and there's probably about 9 Black and Asian coaches. And the rest of them were just white males. Yeah. And I remember having a conversation, of course, and But one of the guys actually, he doesn't see it as an underrepresentation. And I'm thinking to myself, are you gone mad?
Mm-mm.
Name me 10 coaches from an ethnic community that work in at the top level.
Mm-hmm.
Name me 5. Name me 3.
Yeah.
And then tell me there's not a problem.
100%.
And you know, it's crazy.
And the thing, it goes back to what you said. It's not like they don't have the experience, or we don't have the experience, or we don't have the knowledge, because it's like we've been there, we've done it. Do you know what I mean? It's not a thing where it hasn't been proven. It's just the opportunities are not there. Do you know what I mean? Even like myself, I've been coaching for the past 7 years, full time, being on the pitch 6 days a week, 7 days a week on the grass, and it's like getting a position in the sort of academy realm or whatever realm that you want to think about is difficult. So that's why you have to go and look abroad, and you'll get more opportunities abroad, because over here it feels like there's that sort of boys club where if you don't fit the criteria to join a boys club, then you can't join. Do you know what I'm saying? If you don't know X, Y, and Z, you can't come through the door.
100%.
You know what I mean?
think the key thing on there is coming back to what I said before. That's why we, as people who are not commonly seen in that environment, have to be more working together and collaborating and be allies rather than look at each other as competitors. Just last week, you're talking about this Premier League initiative, right? Someone, my old A license tutor, he contacted me and said, "Look, I've got someone else that I want to connect you with." I was like, "Okay, cool, fine." I don't know why, but sure, let's touch base. And it was interesting to see how me and this other gentleman, how our journeys were very similar. And it was like, I could look at him as a competitor, and maybe not have certain conversations with him, or I can look at him as an ally. Because for me, like I said, I'm so confident in what I can do as a coach. I don't see anyone else as a competitor. Bring me to your environment and let's put on a session and let's see who gets better results. Give me 6 months with your players, and you take 6 months with those players. Let's see what happens. I'm confident in what I can do, not just from a coaching perspective, but actually working with other coaches and developing coaches as well. So I'm not really worried about who I'm up against. I mean,
100%.
So I don't see you as competition. So it's a thing where you come in, I'll work with you, and if anything, it's an opportunity for me to learn. Because now, if me and you go for the same job, as an example, Gerald, you get the job. I'm now thinking, right, okay, cool. I think I'm quite sweet, but Gerald, what did you do to get the job? What was it? How did you find that?
What did you do?
I want to learn. What did you do differently? How did you get across the line that I couldn't? Or was there anything that really kind of separated us in that respect? And did it just come down to the chance that they just had to kind of pick someone, and all of a sudden they picked you because they picked it out of the hat? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Was there anything actually specific you did differently to get you further down the line? And like I said earlier, I've always been confident in my ability, and I've always been able to get interviews. And so in terms of applications, I'm quite sweet with that. But I'm not speaking to other coaches saying to me, I can't even get an interview. I don't even get a response to my application. I'm thinking, it kind of just puts things into perspective that no matter how challenging it can be for me, sometimes even when I'm not getting the job that I'm going for, and I've gone for some decent jobs in the past, and I'm thinking, damn, I can't get a job. Like, what the hell's going on? But then then it kind of puts it into perspective. And I'm speaking to other people that have been through who are trying to get something similar, but they're not even getting to see who's going to interview them.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there in front of these people, myself like, okay, cool.
Do you know what it is, bro? I think, like, again, hearing you speak and whatnot and listening to your journey is quite similar to what I've been through as well. And it's a thing where you've beat the odds, bro, to be here. Like I said, your back's been against the wall. Growing up in certain environments, you have to fend for yourself, or people walk all over you. So to get to where you are now, like whatever position you put me in, I know I'm gonna thrive, because you don't know where I've been. I've been in worse positions and I've come out of it. So there's no way you can tell me, if you put me in this position, I'm gonna struggle. I might not know how to do it, but guess what? I'm still gonna get it done. Do you know what I mean? Whatever way, I'm going to learn on the job. I'm going to do something. I'm going to make it happen, because where I've been before, I know a lot of people haven't survived, because I've witnessed it. I've seen it, or I've seen it with my own eyes. Like, I've seen people that I've grown up with that are not here no more. Like, so for me to come out of that situation and still be here and do positive things, not still be doing those negative things, but I'm doing positive things, I'm making a change in people's lives and whatnot. I'm fully confident. So it goes back down to even like, for instance, the small things like WhatsApp group that I did the other day with us, where for me, bro, I'm doing podcasts, you're doing a podcast, or whatever, content creators, whatever you want to call it. Like for me, it's not a thing where I'm just going to keep my contacts to myself and whatnot. No, do you know what we're going to do? Here's a WhatsApp group. Here's a platform for you to promote your podcast or whatever you're doing. Do you know what I mean? Or give awareness to what you're doing to these other people that maybe might have not come across you. Do you know what I mean? I'm not feeling intimidated or whatever because you're doing this or you're doing that, bro. I want to say, here's a platform, shine, like do your thing. Do you know what I mean? Connect with people. Like if there's a way where you can connect with someone through this, bro, perfect. I'm not going to be in a group or whatever and say because I created it, like you guys must be. No, I'm not going to hold no one's hands. Go, like fly, do your thing, like connect with each other. For me,
but the key part
that's
of that is,
empowering, bro.
100%. And I think the key part of that is that again, I come back to the whole culture thing. Some of the sayings that we have, or Mrs. Bangs on about this all the time. She's always telling me about her nan's anecdotal bits of advice, right? My nan always says, "Don't look left, don't look right, just look straight."
100%.
And it's just like it's true though. Like, stop watching what everyone else is doing.
Mm-hmm.
Focus on yourself. Focus on what If it ain't got nothing to do, you don't speak on it. Just keep moving, man. And I think that's one thing I've definitely I've learned. And it's very easy, especially when you see other people. And I've done this in the past a bag of times. And as time's gone on, I've kind of learned not to watching other people.
Yeah.
Thinking, how is that person getting success? Why is that person getting success? Yeah. I'm putting all this work in. I'm putting all this work in.
100%.
Nothing's coming from it. And then the moment you start kind of take your eye off everyone else, you start focusing on your own journey, you find yourself coming up with more constructive ways of doing what you're doing and getting more success. Like if I sat here busy watching everyone else, I might not be having this conversation on New Year's Day or on Christmas Day with Shaquille O'Neal.
Mm-hmm.
Even when people are telling me, nah, it's not going to happen. Oh, yeah, sure. No, I'm going to speak to Shaquille O'Neal. I've made my mind up. It's going to happen. Don't ask me how it's going to happen because I don't know.
100%.
I'll work that out. I'll learn that on the job, as we said. But it's going to happen because that's what I want to happen. And I think, just having that focus on anything else is going to shift you away from being able to get that success or whatever it is that you set your mind on. And like I said, for me, I don't see myself as being successful at all. I don't, because I feel like I'm nowhere near where I want to be in life. However,
what is success to you, bro? What does that mean to you?
I think it's relative because I think it depends on what part of life you're talking about. But I think overall, it's about having being in a position where I guess you can say that you've made a difference. You haven't had to kind of change who you are to do it either. And what I mean by that, you haven't had to kind of sacrifice your principles and values. I think maintaining your principles and values is probably, for me, one of the most important things. Hence why there's been certain jobs and certain opportunities I've had, and I thought, do you know what? I ain't really messing with that because it doesn't sit right with me. So I'm not even gonna mess with it. So I'm just gonna stay away from that. And when the right opportunity comes, it will come, and it will just feel right. So I guess to answer your question, it's literally just getting to a point where I feel like I've been able to achieve things, being authentic to myself. And if we're not thinking on a general level, it's just success, isn't it? I want to be sitting outside in my balcony, feet up, while my kids are running around the house, and my missus is just chilling next to me. So I think that's probably the best way to put it.
Powerful, man. 100%, definitely. It all, I guess, like you said, everyone's got their different definitions to success. Do you know what I mean? And it could look different to everyone. But on a lighter note, bro, we're gonna do a little cultures quiz before we wrap it up. But before we do wrap it up as well, to be fair, again, just the whole journey and the whole watching the growth of, since we've been in contact as well, it's inspiring to see, do you know what I mean? It's inspiring to it's using it as a motivation to kind of like that healthy competition, to see someone like yourself doing consistently, like, you're like, nah, Yas done it, so I need to be 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock. I need to be doing my thing as well. Do you know what I mean? So it's a thing where it's like that healthy competition is needed in this environment. And yeah, your mindset, your journey. Obviously, you've got a beautiful missus there that's next to you, where she's pushing you. She's making sure that when it's those days where you're not feeling it, I'm sure she's right next to you, saying to you, "Listen,
100%.
get up. We got things to do. We got plans." You know what I mean? And it goes back to what I
100%,
said.
man.
Behind every successful man is a strong woman, and I truly believe in that. Do you know what I mean? So having that behind you is powerful, and I know for sure it, you'll get to a position in wherever that is, whatever success means to you. I'm sure you're gonna get there, man. Without a doubt, I'm fully confident, and like you said, I know you're confident in that as well. So I wish you the best of luck. But before we wrap it up and everything, like I said, we're gonna get into a little coaches quiz, something light-hearted. We're gonna test your knowledge as
Go
you know,
for it,
as a
man.
coach. Some of these questions, to be fair, excuse me, like I don't know. I might not get them myself, but I know the answers. Yeah. But yeah, I'll get into it. All right. So first question, a little bit like easy. Well, we'll see. Which year did Sir Alex Ferguson retire?
2013.
It was close. 2012. But yeah, close. Close. Well, yeah, it's 2012, 2013 season. So yeah, I'll give it to you.
Yeah.
I'll give it to you. Right, next one. As of February 2018, which Premier League club has had the most managers? So basically, yeah, since 2008. Well, as of February 2018.
From 2018 till now, you mean?
No, as of February. So the stats from as of
Oh,
February
okay.
20.
They
Yeah,
took over as a leading
yeah,
club
yeah,
in
yeah, yeah.
2018. Could be Chelsea, man.
Nah, Newcastle United.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
So I
Newcastle.
wouldn't even think of that, but go on.
Yeah, Newcastle's. They've had a bag of managers.
Yeah.
Next one. Can you name the only Premier League manager in history to be born in Denmark?
Born in Denmark.
Mm-hmm.
Not Laudrup, is it?
Boom, boom. Correct.
Yeah.
Good one. Right. Next one. How many Premier League titles did Arsene Wenger win?
3,
You're,
I believe.
you're Arsenal fan, right?
Nah, man.
Oh, you're not Arsenal fan? Okay.
Nah, bro.
All right, fair enough. Fair enough. I started laughing.
It's free though. It's free though, yeah?
Correct. 3, yeah, you got that
Yeah.
right. Right, last one. Who is currently West Brom manager?
Don't tell me you got sacked, but with Bilic, no? Bilic got sacked, didn't he?
You got sacked.
Bilic got sacked, so it is. Snap.
Someone that always gets the job.
Oh, is it Allardyce?
Allardyce. There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Question. So what you got? You got 1, you got 2, 3, 4. 4 questions. Right. Last one actually. Sorry. Which Englishman has managed Charlton, Crystal Palace, and Hull City in the Premier League? This one's a bit of a tough one.
Alan Podgy.
Nah. Ian Dowie.
Ian Dowie.
Don't you remember him?
Yeah.
Old
Ian
school.
Dowie, yeah.
Old school manager.
Yeah.
But yeah. Nah, that's good. You know what? You done well there. You done well. To be fair, I didn't think you was gonna get some of them, but you got most of them right. So yeah, you only got what? 2 wrong out of that. But yeah, that's decent, not too bad. So we're gonna be doing a few more of those people once we get a few more coaches on the platform, just something light-hearted and test their knowledge. Obviously, Coach Yas, you done what? Two wrong out of those 6 there, so not too bad. That's not a bad score, mate.
That's a bad score, man. I wanted to get 6 out of 6, bro.
That's a perfectionist coming
out
of you. Another one, nah. We'll have to. We'll do another one, because you know what? I was going to say to you, what I want to do is as well. I want to do one in person, and come down to your environment and get a more in depth sort of overall picture where you're at. Because again, hearing stories like yourself, I feel like there needs to be more light shone on that. Especially again, growing up in, like you said, growing up in Wembley or London in general. Like I said, with what we said earlier on off air. It's all the same. It might be a different feeling and it might be a different energy in certain areas, but we've all gone through the same things. And I feel like more stories like this needs to be shared to people and going to the places where you grew up, and for people to kind of see a vision of, this is where I've come from and this is why I am the way I am, and where the confidence has come from. So I would love to, obviously, once things have settled down a little bit more,
let's make it happen, man.
we'll make it happen, and we'll do something, man, because again, it's powerful journeys, and it's the value that you have tons of, will make a big difference, man. So I hope we didn't miss anything out. Is there anything that you feel like we needed to cover or anything like that?
Man, I can talk for hours, man. But I think
Likewise.
we've got the most out of it. So I appreciate it. Obviously, bringing me on, very much appreciate it.
No, anytime, man, anytime. And obviously, we'll put the link below, the Coaches Network podcast and the great work that Yas is doing at the moment. Make sure to follow the podcast. Make sure you to subscribe to his channel. Make sure to subscribe to the channel as well. Let's get these views up. Let's get it out there, man. Because again, for me personally, it's not about how much views that we're getting or whatever. It's how many people is reaching to in terms of making a difference. So, like I said, stories like this needs to be heard, man. It needs to be going out to people. So make sure, if you feel like this is bringing value to you or to someone else, make sure you share it. Make sure you comment below. What's your takes from the chat that we just had? And yeah, take care.